At this point, folks, there's no doubt that Wade W. Wilson is one of the most capable killers the Marvel Universe has ever seen. In fairness, being nearly immortal does give one a leg up on the competition, but that shouldn't take away from Deadpool's impressive hit list over the years. His martial prowess was famously put to the ultimate test during 2012's Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, in which Wade's unorthodox methods and creative problem-solving made him a terror to behold when his latent murderous inclinations were fully unleashed. But it turns out, once just wasn't enough for everyone's favorite masochistic mercenary. Like the old saying goes, if at first you succeed, the second time should be easy. So without further ado, let's discover if the Merc with a Mouth has lost a step since the last time he painted the town red. Number 1. Out of the frying pan. Our tale of woe and worry opens in the famous French Quarter of New Orleans, where a certain talented thief lies dead and gone, his gaping jaws stuffed with cheap playing cards. As Gambit's dead body soaks in blood and alcohol, a local detective walks past the caution tape into the blood-spattered bar. He was affiliated with the Thieves Guild, right? The cop asks. Could they be responsible? His partner responds skeptically. It's worth looking into, but I don't think so. This is different. Believe me, I would know. Whoever did this enjoyed the hell out of it. The murky, messy murder scene sharply cuts to an all-out superhero brawl between a group of vengeful X-Men blasting through the scientifically enhanced forces of MODOK. "Wade!" yells team leader Rogue from the midst of the chaos. "MODOK has the intel we need, take him down!" "Whatever you say, my rootin'-tootin' cowgirl queen," DP returns as he leaps for the mechanically maligned head of AIM. But as Deadpool begins to descend on MODOK, the evil genius calls out, "Worm, we had an understanding, your master and I." Then, a pause, before MODOK turns to Wade and recites a befuddling passage. "Tirelessly I pondered what daydreams a carcinogenic piranha might revere." Hearing this, Deadpool's eyes lose focus. His arms drape at his sides, unable to lift his twin pistols. Immediately, DP's mutant teammates notice something's amiss. "Something's not right with Deadpool," Quicksilver calls out to the team. "More than usual, I mean." Bishop too recognizes these signs as he yells out, "He's been entranced!" "Yes, entranced," MODOK wheezes through a grin, "and you don't know the half of it. You came here to learn who was killing your friends and allies. Shall I tell you?" But just as MODOK appears on the brink of revealing an evil plot, Deadpool whistles flirtatiously as he hefts a bazooka over his shoulder. "Yoo-hoo! Oh, MODOK! Haven't you heard? Loose lips sink ship for free." The awakened DP launches a missile directly into the villain's oversized forehead. But as his rocket kills AIM's head honcho, Wade begins to feel strange. Suddenly, the world around him begins to brighten and morph. Deadpool seems to barely register his new surroundings, but as AIM's head scientist falls, he unleashes his genetically modified anti-uncanny Avengers. Deadpool quickly gets to work slicing and dicing these familiar-looking foes apart, until the last one standing, Brainwave Ninja, steps back in horror from the fight. "Deadpool, why did you—" She manages before the world snaps back to focus, and Wade's teammates lie slaughtered at his feet. "Because you're the bad guys," he says solemnly, as Synapse slowly begins to realize the horror of her situation. "Deadpool," she cries out, "how could you— It's been you all along, you've been killing us off!" "But it's over," Synapse decides, a steely edge creeping into her voice, failing to hide the waver of fear in her words. "I'm shutting you down." Deadpool sighs. "Yeah, that's a good idea, Brainwave Ninja. You do that." DP says despondently, "Please." But moments later, a gargled scream rings out from the base and echoes into the night as Deadpool finishes his horrific job. The next morning, a supergroup consisting of Jessica Jones, Kate Bishop, The Punisher, Misty Knight, Cable, and Moon Knight inspects the grisly scene of the slaughter with carefully honed eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Moon Knight announces morbidly, "we have one nasty serial killer on our hands." The Punisher weighs in next, and it looks like we all fit the profile for his victims. "I find it hard to muster up the interest in Avengers rosters now that I'm not a member," Moon Knight continues. "But this group, Deadpool was on the roster, yes?" Cable answers without hesitation. "He runs with them, but we didn't find his body among the carnage. He's not here." But the Fist of Khonshu soon unearths a familiar bloody insignia sprawled across the floor in the shadows. He was. Back at Deadpool's dilapidated hideout, the regenerating degenerate still seems unable to perceive the reality of his situation. His inner world still consists of heroic missions, brave quests, and flashy bright colors that flood his perception with blinding distraction. As Deadpool sees himself discussing classified secrets with Nick Fury, he really sits hunched over a phone line listening to that eerie phrase on repeat. "Tirelessly I pondered what daydreams a carcinogenic piranha might revere." Next, Wade travels to the Aegean Sea, where a hardy phalanx of mythical heroes arrives at the behest of Hercules, who is wary. "Have a care, my friends," Herc warns his companions. "I do not like this." "Nor do I," Thor replies. "The prayers of mortals alone did not beckon to us. Gods prayed here as well. Gods praying for help." "What could frighten the divine in such a way?" Valkyrie asks, more confused than scared at this point. Until a gleeful, familiar voice chimed up from across the field. "Hey, you deific sad sacks! Stop being so glum, and try seeing things from my point of view!" Deadpool's Grecian pool party was in full swing, complete with volleyball courts, a hot tub, and beautiful scenic views. A volleyball flew by Wade's head as he greeted Hercules and his troop. But even as the pleasantries played out around the godly heroes, they could tell something was amiss. "There's something familiar about this," Hercules ponders as he peruses the party. "Oh no, I know where we are. We must go at once. Loki, transport us away from this place before..." But even as Herc gives the order to retreat, DP pops up with the runaway volleyball and holds it up in triumph. As reality sets back in, we see the god staring up at Deadpool, from whose hand dangles the snake-haired skull of Medusa. As Wade holds the ancient artifact aloft, Hercules screams to his friends, "All of you, avert your eyes, don't..." But the damage has already been done. The divine protectors of Earth feel their bodies cool, then stiffen, then lock, as their joints harden and are turned to stone, never again to feel the warmth of the Aegean sun on their skin. "All right, dirtbag, on the floor!" roars Frank Castle as his foot explodes through the door to Wade's rundown apartment. But DP is nowhere to be found. The place is clear, Cable reports to the group. As the heroes dive into the contents of Deadpool's life, they find numerous files with intimate data on many past assassinated heroes. "I haven't looked through the rest," Moon Knight says as he considers the files, "but I guess we'll find files on Gambit, Rogue, and Quicksilver, among others here as well. These reports include weaknesses, suggested tactics to combat them, to kill them." "That settles it," the Punisher rumbles. "Deadpool's our guy. We find him and we smoke him." But Jessica Jones still isn't sure this case is so black and white. As she overturns a pizza box, she finds the words "Help me" scrawled out on DP's desk. "I'm not sure it's quite so simple," she says. "Take a look. I think Deadpool left us another message." As Deadpool continues his raucous rampage and the ragtag group of heroes moves closer and closer to confronting him, another player silently smiles from the shadows, pleased with how well his plan is proceeding. "Our initial tests have been successful," the Red Skull reports to his partners in crime. "Our operative is creative and efficient, and we have him under our complete control. We should be left with only one question. Who is next?" As Dr. Doom, the Abomination, and Magneto all offer suggestions for next targets, Red Skull assuages their excitement. "Patience, my friends. Patience. I promise, we're going to get them all." But before we see where Wade's rampage takes him next, be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on to never miss an upload, and smash that like button for some plot armor today. And be warned, folks, because there's no turning back now. Number 2. Itsy Bitsy Spiders. Our second issue opens on the house of one Eddie Brock, whose apartment is littered with bullets, blood, and blowhorns. As the detectives investigate Brock's dead body, little do they realize Eddie's murderer has run off with one of the most dangerous artifacts on the planet. For at that moment, across town, Peter Parker swings his way through the streets of New York when Venom drops out of the sky screaming, "We'll kill you, Spider!" But you're not Venom, Peter realizes. You're something new. The alien monstrosity barreled down on Spidey, gurgling, "Don't you run from me!" Deadpool's venomous debut was over before it had even started when he and Spidey careened into a nearby water tower at top speed. As Spidey fell unconscious to the rooftops, Venompool crouched eagerly beside him, their long tongue lapping hungrily at their helpless prey. From Deadpool's warped brainwash perspective, the stomach-churning scene played out as a quaint pie-eating contest. But while Wade dreamed, the regenerating degenerate's venom-bonded body consumed Spider-Man's skull whole. When Venom had eaten their fill, it snarled with delight. "At last, it is done! Spider-Man is dead. My hunger sated." With this, the monster retreated from Deadpool's form, awakening DP from his happy-go-lucky daydream. "Spidey, we did it! We outate the Blob!" A stunned, traumatized merc with a mouth whispered in shock as the Venom symbiote scuttled away from the scene. As the alien goop slithered away, Wade was left with only his thoughts, his gear, and the cannibalized body of an old friend laying out on the rooftop beside him. Next, Deadpool set his sights on Spider-Woman. From Wade's cartoonishly naive subconscious, he was simply helping babysit Jess's newborn. But once again, that sinister subroutine ran in DP's brain, forcing his limbs to slice and dice through any and all targets. As Wade's diseased mind calmly imagined putting the baby down to bed, reality found his body doing fierce combat with one of the city's foremost combatants as Jessica's terrified toddler watched on. Screaming, "How dare you? How dare you attack me here in my home, in front of my child?" Spider-Woman raged at Deadpool as the two clashed in the living room, but once again the regenerating degenerate proved too much for the formidable Spider. DP's twin blades found purchase deep in Jessica's stomach, and as her young child watched, Jess slowly bled to death on the floor of her own home. Again, the heroes following Deadpool's bloody, merciless trail could only hang their heads at the horror awaiting them when they finally discovered Jessica's remains. "We need to let each other know if we discover anything," Moon Knight determines as the super team surveys the crime scene. "And if my operative discovers anything useful, I'll be certain to let you all know." "Operative?" the Punisher shoots back, never one to miss an important detail. "That's right," Moon Knight scowls at him. "I have people." Meanwhile, instead of pie-eating contests and babysitting gigs, DP was now a hardened science fiction detective a la Blade Runner, and Spider-Man 2099 would be the next hero to feel his laser pistols burn. One unceremonious shot to the head was all it took for Deadpool to make short work of Miguel O'Hara, with the regenerating degenerate once again mumbling incomprehensibly of strange unseen phantoms and cartoonish illusions as he went about his dirty work. With the future taken care of, Deadpool was nearly late to his next appointment with the one and only Miles Morales. But Jessica Jones and Kate Bishop managed to reach Miles first, wasting no time. I don't know if you've heard or not, but it isn't safe to play lone superhero these days. There's a killer on the loose. "I heard," Miles says solemnly. "Captain America was advising masked heroes to lie low for a while. Must be bad for him to offer that advice. Seems like the opposite of what we should be doing right now." Admiring his bravery but fearing for his life, Jessica Jones explains, "We have reason to believe that anyone wearing a spider emblem might be in danger." Just then, Miles felt the tingling sensation that always accompanied incoming danger. Pumpkin bombs littered the roof. Kate was thrown from the skyscraper immediately, and Jessica leaped into action to save her. But this left Miles all alone with a twisted, warped version of Wade W. Wilson standing aboard a goblin glider, dressed in the tattered remnants of the costumed spider heroes he'd already slain. Peter? Miles barely managed as he tried to stand. Is that you?" But as he looked up into the face of the murderer standing before him, no, it's not, is it? Deadpool descended on his glider, facing the young Spider-Man as he drew his blade. "You poor travesty. You failed copy," DP monologued as visions of spider clones and monsters danced in his head. The saga of the Spider-Verse clone conspiracy ends here. As Deadpool fought his way through the final monster in his head, his sword cut clean through Miles Morales' neck, leaving nothing but a decapitated final Spider-Man for Jessica and Kate to find when they returned to the roof. While Jessica Jones informs the rest of her team that Deadpool's mass murdering spree has someone writing checks behind it, the alliance of villains supporting Wade's frenzied killing spree begin to show signs of strain. It is a mistake, Skull, putting such faith in a lunatic like Deadpool. Dr. Doom warns his co-conspirator in the dark caverns of their evil lair. "It is not faith in the man, Herr Doom," the Red Skull calmly responds. "It is faith in the plan, in the conditioning Deadpool has undergone. He will not turn against us, because he has no idea what he's doing." But even as the two tyrannical autocrats debate the merits of their evil plot, a single silent stowaway listens and watches from the shadows. From atop her perch, hidden away in the cavernous canopy of the castle's interior, the unbelievable Gwenpool watches and waits, relaying every word back to her trusted supervisor, Moon Knight. Number 3 and 4, Into the Fire. Gwenpool, Moon Knight's spy embedded in Red Skull's operation, immediately radios the Fist of Khonshu to alert him to the scale of the problem. At long last, the heroes have some idea of what they're truly facing underneath the surface of Wade's rampage. But even armed with Gwenpool's hard-won intel, do the band of brave do-gooders stand any chance against the whirling, carnivorous tornado of death that is Deadpool? Unfortunately, Gwenpool's heroic tip-off came at a heavy price, as moments after she was able to message Moon Knight, her radio fell silent. "Until we hear from her again, we should assume Gwenpool's dead," Moon Knight admits as the connection goes cold. On their way to the head of the snake, unlikely teammates Moon Knight and Punisher find a spit-roasted raccoon carcass alongside the other murdered corpses of the Guardians of the Galaxy. "One trip to Earth too many, I suppose," Spectre callously jokes as Castle lifts a discarded laser gun from the scene of the massacre. "Looks like Deadpool left the murder weapon behind," the Punisher says as he stows the weapon in his jacket. Reinvigorated by witnessing yet another monstrous murder, Castle and Spectre journey onward, hoping to topple the conspiracy from the top down. Meanwhile, however, Deadpool remains trapped in his own personal hell, the cartoonish illusion that masks his true actions from his own fractured psyche. At this point in our story, it's safe to say DP has hit his stride. With little to no difficulty, Wade fries the entire X-Men team by sabotaging the extremely dangerous technology hidden on school grounds. Soon after, Cable and Misty Knight discover a basement full of Deadpool's old associates and teammates, all tortured and strung up, kept alive for perhaps days before finally being allowed to expire. As the death toll rose exponentially, the Punisher and Moon Knight's Hail Mary mission to take down the source of the Scourge was more important than ever. But when the two arrived at the Red Skull's island hideout, they found only abandoned hallways and empty offices. As the two vigilantes began digging through Red Skull's old files, a figure appeared behind them, clad in the black and red costume that had become a harbinger of nothing but death. Deadpool would only witness himself showing off in a friendly game of hoops as he battled fiercely against Moon Knight and the Punisher. "Get out of the way, Moon Knight," Castle warned. "I can tell what you're doing. You're trying to subdue him, trying to spoil my shots. That's not how this is gonna work." A cold, heartless voice escaped the usually jovial lips of the Merc with a Mouth. "He's right. Either you're not walking out of here, or I'm not." This admission got Moon Knight's attention, and he stepped aside to let the Punisher take his killing shot. "Game's over, Wade," Frank Castle said as he squeezed the trigger. But as soon as his newfound gun went off, the Punisher was ripped to shreds by some sort of concentrated black hole that opened up inside the weapon. "You sabotaged the gun," Moon Knight said in shock. "You left it for us, knowing the Punisher would use it." Moon Knight knew that his chances of survival had just been significantly lowered. But one walloping kick to the chin actually managed to give the Fist of Khonshu the upper hand. "What did they do to you?" Moon Knight roared as he struck DP mercilessly. Again," Wade whispered. "Hit me again. The pain. At least, I'm here for the pain." Moon Knight followed up with a decisive left cross, sending Deadpool to the floor. "They're making a play," Wade managed in a moment of clarity. "Finally got organized. Going to get rid of all the heroes once and for all." "Who?" Moon Knight asked coldly. "All of them." But in the instant of Deadpool's lucidity, his muscle memory kicked in. The black and red blur whipped around and stabbed Spectre directly through the stomach. As he left, Deadpool used his final moments of coherence to murmur something in the Knight's ear, something that sent the dying man straight for his communicator. Jessica, the Knight barely managed to say. "I know where he's going next. He warned me. Whatever you do, don't go alone. Take heavy hitters with..." And with that, Mark Spector was no more. When Jessica Jones arrived at the villain's hideout, she was accompanied by the entire Avengers roster, complete with the Scarlet Witch, Shang-Chi, Iron Man, and the Hulk, just to name a few. When this super squadron tore down the front doors of the castle, though, they were surprised to meet only one foe standing before them. The limping, blood-soaked shell of Ultron stood tall, with a traumatized, mind-controlled psychopath shuttered inside the impenetrable case. The horrific cyborg spoke not with its usual programmed voice, but with the tortured voice of one Wade Wilson, watching helplessly as the rest of his friends prepared to die. "You can't," Deadpool's words managed to eke out through the vibranium armor grafted to his very skin and bone. "Can't stop me. I want you to, but you can't. All you can do is just run. But I know you won't. So you're gonna die." The intense battle between the Avengers and Ultron Pool, however glorious it may have looked in Wade's mind, was a short-lived spectacle of slaughter. The gathered group of heavy hitters simply didn't stand a chance against the vibranium-encased Merc with a Mouth. Deadpool had every weapon at Ultron's disposal, not to mention hand-to-hand skills that had so far bested every combatant in the universe. Ultron Pool ripped Iron Man in half, phased the Vision into the Hulk's chest cavity, and even unceremoniously snapped Jessica Jones' neck in front of the rest of the Avengers. When his victims finally all lay dead at his feet, Deadpool suddenly had another moment of clarity as he began to remove his metallic outer layer. Can't breathe in this thing. Gotta..." As he lifted the helmet, Deadpool ripped off the very scalp that had been surgically grafted to Ultron's armor. Look at what I've done," the regenerating degenerate wallowed at the side of his triumph. Who's gonna stop me now?" But his prayers would not be answered, for Wade's rampage was far from over. One hide-and-seek game with the champions later, and DP had successfully murdered the world's most powerful teenage super team. Even this wasn't far enough for Deadpool's dastardly handlers, as next he was sent after lone wolves such as Daredevil, Ant-Man, and Ghost Rider. But it was after his brutal killing of Nova that a familiar pink and white Merc's knee connected solidly with Deadpool's chin, in an ambush that sent the mass murderer reeling. "Sorry about this, Mr. Poole," Gwenpool said, "but I need you to calm down and fast. A quick stab to the heart should do the..." But Gwen was too slow. Deadpool returned with a lightning-fast kick of his own, and quickly the two pools were locked in combat. Swords clashed and sparked together as Gwen and Wade battled it out, but in the end, it wasn't enough. DP stabbed Gwen cleanly through the stomach, and as the young woman slowly dropped to her knees, she whispered something in her fellow merc's ear. Something that would change everything. "It's not you. You killed us all. But it wasn't you," she managed. And then, tirelessly, I pondered what daydreams a carcinogenic piranha might revere. The villains. Don't let them get away with it. Suddenly, a sober posture returned to Wade's form, along with a burning hatred in his eyes. "All right then," Wade said to himself. "Bring on the bad guys." Number 5. Revenge of the Pissed. Wade wastes no time in starting his second act, and his blood-soaked hands quickly unleashed a torrent of righteous death onto the world, the likes of which had never been seen before. "Remain calm, ladies and gentlemen," the Red Skull radioed out to his compatriots in the midst of Deadpool's reversal. "It is true our agent Deadpool has turned against us. He has broken the shackles of our mental manipulation. But we have our very best agents working on the problem as we speak. It is only a matter of time before he meets someone with a greater killer instinct than his own." Yet kill after kill, Deadpool made his way closer to the top of the villainous ladder. Kingpin lay dead in his office with a katana through his chest. Bullseye felt a bullet penetrate through his skull. And Batroc the Leaper was thrown from a skyscraper and turned to jelly on impact with the street. Eventually, after slaying Zemo, the Absorbing Man, and the Green Goblin with little difficulty whatsoever, Wade found himself face to face with one of the leaders of the operation, Magneto. As Deadpool raised his sword to remove the Master of Magnetism's head from his shoulders, the mutant leader spoke calmly to his assailant. "The Skull has offered sanctuary to those who serve him loyally. You'll find him. You'll find all of them here," Magneto said as he tossed the coordinates to a surprised DP. "I gotta know, Mags. Why'd you do it?" Magneto sighed. "I thought that by striking a bargain with these villains, I would be able to better protect mutant kind. I never anticipated that it would go so far." In the end, Wade let Magneto live. Not out of mercy, but with the knowledge that Eric was just as tortured by Deadpool's killings as he was himself. "And we both deserve to live with that," DP said as he left the mutant tyrant unscathed and continued on to his real targets. Finally, Deadpool had reached the throne room of the man who had put his hellish killing spree into motion. The man who had forced his hand to slay all of his closest friends and allies. The man who took his mind from him. The Red Skull. Flanked by both Taskmaster and Crossbones as bodyguards, the head of Hydra still felt confident in his safety. For now. Once Wade arrived, the Skull quickly realized how dire his situation truly was. Not only did Taskmaster almost instantly bail, saying that he didn't agree with the way Deadpool was mentally tortured, but Crossbones proved laughably ineffectual against the whirling red and black visage of death that Deadpool had become. While Red Skull snapped the neck of the betrayer Taskmaster, Deadpool quickly and elegantly put a knife through the back of Crossbones' neck, ending the fight before it had even begun. Then, there were two. Deadpool and the Red Skull. "You're next, Goth Hitler!" Wade screamed as he leapt at his tormentor. "Do you really think you could shrug off my programming so easily?" The Skull laughed, toying with Deadpool's still fragile grip on reality. "Your every adventure, your every victory, the world you know, is all designed by me. The only thing that is real is the chaos and death you have." But in that moment, as the Skull momentarily turned his back on the monster he'd unleashed, the sharpened edge of a shield slit through Skull's tendons and bone, removing his blood-colored skull from his body. "Chaos and death," Wade said matter-of-factly as his blow ended the Skull's life. "I'll take it." But even as his body relaxes from the adrenaline of revenge, Deadpool's broken mind still perceives the Red Skull's words from the decapitated head on the ground. "The age of heroes is over," it screams. "There is no redemption for what you've done. You cannot set things right. You cannot even be sure you have succeeded in killing me." Deadpool takes a deep breath before replying, "Maybe not, but I'm not finished. Good thing there's no heroes left," Wade says, dry sarcasm returning to his voice as he leaves his mask behind. "'Cause what I'll be doing, it ain't hero business." Thanks so much for watching. Let us know what you thought of Wade's most recent homicidal rampage in the comments. I've been Jack Stansbury, and from all of us here at Plot Armor Comics, we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.